Hey YouTube, it is I think February 10th and it's really cold outside, and we're looking here at some 3V tomahawks and knives. This stuff is about 0.3 inches thick, 5/16 or more. Well, no, just under 5/16. So there's going to be a lot of work here involved because we've got to straighten these things because they are a little bit warped. For some reason, steel is just crooked when it comes out of the mill. So we've got some hidden tang knives, and they're going to have actual 3V steel guards, and some of these are going to have like a diamond-like coating and real nice bead blasted finishes. They're going to be pretty cool. So I've got some Americanas Bowie knives, both the chopper model and the old original model, which has got a little more slender blade on it. And then we got a Tonto, and then we have just two of the 3B tomahawk. And actually this will be an Anubis tomahawk, and it's going to have a pocket milled in the head instead of holes, because I wanted to make it as strong as possible because we're using 3V steel, which is tremendously expensive, and I wanted to make sure that whatever anybody does with it, it will be a lifetime tool. So we're going to have the Raven in a hidden tang model, and I'll show you a few that I've already ground at 1095. So this is a real small batch of stuff. Also the Unkindness sword, which you'll see ground in 1095 here in a minute. Also, I'm going to thread the tang, or the little stud on the bottom, so we'll be able to do a nice traditional hidden tang sword, probably with some fancy wooden grips, or maybe some carbon fiber, something fancy on all these 3V blades, because they're going to be expensive anyway. You might as well make them fancy. So what I've been up to this week has been a lot of handwork and final finishing, and getting ready for these blades to be heat treated, which is always a much longer endeavor than I ever think. But you can see that we have the Murder short sword, and I cut a fuller in here all the way down to the tip, so it kind of, this is 1/4 inch thick, basically right where my thumbnail is, and that's a 2-inch diameter grinding wheel that did that cut, and then terminated it up here by the ricasso, and hopefully I'll get that cleaned up a little bit more with the flat sander. And then you can also see, maybe you can see the checkering on the guard. So the handle will go where that line is. You can kind of see it there. I did some coarser checkering on this Horribilis with a different checkering file. And then the Taipan turned out pretty nice. It's all ground and mostly cleaned up. I did the file work on all these sharp edges and then the strut on the handle, but next I gotta go over it with sandpaper and pretend like I'm polishing shoes for another day on all these things, so I get all the burrs off and make everything look really pretty. You can see where I'm stationed, working right here on this vise, and I got my iPod running music, and it's just the tedious part of the job that makes it a custom knife instead of a semi-production knife. Oh, I wish I had the light turned on back here, but I guess we'll just have to warm it up. Alright, so I set up the Wilmot grinder in here because I needed to do that. And so there it is, and it's running pretty good, and I've got dust collection going to it. Also set up my oscillating spindle sander in here so I could do some spindle sanding, and I got that hooked up with dust collection. You can see my block off plate for the dust is an old piece of pipe that just barely covers. In order to cover the spindle, I had to have something tall and cover those little holes. So that's my makeshift block off blast gate for now. Hopefully you can see in this light. Well, there's my Lensatech vector drive, and it's I put the potentiometer in the front, which was easy once I figured out how to do it. But that's a nice controller. So let's see here. I've got some Jackal Tomahawks like you've probably seen in previous videos. Same state of affairs there. Only thing different is that I took the new Raven dagger, and this is the same profile as the one you just saw. That's the blank in 3V, but instead of doing a pommel that's going to be threaded on the tang, I just did this version. So this would be a totally hidden tang with no metal or anything sticking out the end. And I could actually modify the 3V blanks to be the same way. And you can see that I fullered out the tang to shave a few grams off. So this is 2 grams lighter than it would be without that fuller. And having the Wilmot grinder with the work rest enables me to do that pretty easily. It's just the hard part is getting the wheel perfectly in the middle of the blade. Then I did some more cleanup work on the Unkindness swords so that you can see that the grind line is pretty much as good as I'm going to get it, and then until I do some hand sanding after it's heat treated. Anyway, that's a 45 micron finish right now, and it won't take too much time to hand sand that and make it look really perfect. So that's what's going on. This part of the process is really slow because you can only spend so much time doing that handwork, and because I'm radiusing, well, you can see because I'm radiusing the corners, right, especially on this type of blade where you've got this hidden or this skeletonized tang or hilt. I've done the chamfering, most of the metal removal with a little burr on the router table, but then you got to go back and make it round with a file and sandpaper, because I don't have a CNC mill to do that for me. And even if I did, it'd be hard to get it just perfect anyway. So don't forget Valentine's Day. It's coming up on Sunday, I think, and that means it's not the 10th. What day is today? I don't know. Maybe it's the 12th. Alright. See you next time.